Thank you. Thank every one of you for being here. And I certainly appreciate this opportunity. I appreciate it so much because, as you know, the chaos in the world is kind of fear provoking for a lot of people. And yet, for some of us, it's like, oh, this is so exciting. Because you could look at the world and look at it in one sense that it seems to be all falling apart and it's scary. And what's the future? It's unclear. And the reason why this is happening is very important, and I'll give a scientific reason for it, and that is this: that human behavior has precipitated what is called the sixth mass extinction of life on this planet. 5 times in the history of this planet, life was thriving, and some cataclysmic event ended up wiping out up to 90% of life, and then it started all over again. The last mass extinction, 66 million years ago, the planet was lush with forests and jungles and dinosaurs. And a comet hit near the Yucatan Peninsula, upended the environment, and wiped out, of course, all the dinosaurs and wiped out almost all of life. And since then, we started rebuilding in nature. Here we are today. And what science has recognized, and this is like the alarm bell, is that we are losing species of organisms on this planet faster than in previous mass extinctions. And it turns out human behavior is undermining the web of life. And so basically it says we are creating our own extinction. Now you might say, well, this is going to be 1,000 years from now. I go, no, how about within the century? And we are completely unsustainable. I say, so what's the relevance? It says we are being called upon to evolve. The analogy that I use a lot is the analogy of the metamorphosis of a butterfly. It starts out as a caterpillar. Caterpillar is most voracious of organisms. If it lands on a plant, it'll eat every leaf off of that plant. And then when it reaches a certain size, the caterpillar stops growing, stops moving, and puts itself inside a cocoon. And in that cocoon is a process that leads to the development of the butterfly. So the relevance about all this is simply that human civilization is reflecting a very much metamorphosis process right now. The caterpillar version of our civilization, voracious as it is, has undermined the web of life, eaten up everything and destroying everything. And we're being called upon to have a metamorphosis, to evolve. And we are going to evolve into this much lighter touch of a butterfly, which has a very small footprint on the environment. And I go, yeah, we're in process. It's called metamorphosis. So now one step back, and that is this: a caterpillar is comprised of millions and millions of cells. A human, while we see ourselves as an individual, is actually an illusion as individual, because a human, by full scientific definition, is a community of 50 trillion cells. So underneath your skin is this bustling community that's going on in there. And when there's harmony in that community, there's health. But when there's disharmony in the community, there's dis-ease. And so we can look at the cellular population in here, but I'm go back to the caterpillar, and I say, well, if you're a cell in that caterpillar, during the growing stage, everybody's working, man. The digestive system is pulling in the food, the muscle cells are moving this thing. Every cell is working, job going out. But at that moment where it reaches the end of this, all of a sudden the jobs have to stop. If the caterpillar is not eating, then what's the digestive system going to do? And if it stops moving, what are the muscle cells going to do? I say, oh, inside that cocoon, the civilization that exists starts to fall apart. The cells are out of work. All of a sudden, it's like there's no jobs. What's going on in here and all this? And there's a chaos. And chaos is not random, because there's a process going on that is specific. And I say, what is it? The population comprising the caterpillars falling apart, and simultaneously a population of cells are beginning to form the butterfly. So one is coming down, one is going up. And I say, so why is it relevant? I say, well, if you look around the world, everyone's so caught up in what's coming down, we're not paying attention to what we are creating on the way up. And our attention is really necessary, because if you focus on the scary stuff, then you are introducing a fear into the system. And if you're focusing on the vision of a future, that is beautiful and all that, then you're enhancing your vitality. Okay. And the reason why it's falling down is just as in the caterpillar, we cannot build a sustainable civilization on the foundation of this current civilization, because this is the one that's causing the problem. Rising to the top are things we haven't dealt with that are coming up. Why? Because if we move into the future, we can no longer hide things such as the Me Too generation coming in and saying, look, this has been out of balance for all these years, but now we've got to bring it to the surface. Black Lives Matter coming in saying, yes, this has been under your surface, but it's rotten under here. And environmentalists are coming up saying, look, you can't keep destroying this thing. And I say, why is all this coming up? Because to create the sustainable future, we have to deal with who and what we are. And then I go just a side tangent here, but it's the most important side tangent is this. The most valid science on planet Earth is quantum physics. Most people have no ideas except that it's a complicated, scary thing like that. But I'm going to have to say this. It is the most tested of all sciences and the most valid of all the sciences on the planet. And you go, so what? Now here's why. The first principle of quantum physics is that consciousness is creating our life experiences. We're creating this. And the idea is, if you look around, you go, why would I create this mess? Why would I create this mess? And the answer becomes very profoundly important to help us get out of this mess. And now sidetrack again. A brain is like the most advanced computer that humans are aware of. It's a computer. And I go, so what? I say, I'm going to make an analogy story that tells you where the problem comes from right now. And that is this. I go to the store and buy a brand new computer and I bring it home and I'm so excited. I plug it in, push start, and it boots up. The screen lights up. I'm so excited. And I say, oh, let's make a drawing. Let's do a spreadsheet, let's write an essay. And I realize I can't do that. I got a brand new computer. I can't even do that. I said, why not? First, you have to put programs into a computer that you can operate from. So you buy the new computer, the next one is what? You download programs. And once the programs are in, then what? You can use the keyboard now to engage those programs and write and do what you want. Okay, so here's the point. The brain of a child boots up in the last trimester of pregnancy, but it's got no programs, can't do anything. So learning begins in utero even before the child's born. I say, well, how can a child learn something that's all inside here, got no connection to, how does it know? I go, recognize that mother's blood provides nutrition for a developing fetus. The blood of the mother goes into the womb and the nourishment is passed on to the fetus and then back into the mother's blood, cleaned and refreshed. And I go, yeah, cool, that's right. And I go, but people have misunderstood the fact that, yes, nutrition is the main thing in mother's blood, but information is in our blood. What do you mean information? Emotional feelings and chemicals, right? Neuro control of the organs and their functions, what to do in a stress situation versus what in a peaceful situation. I say, why? Is this important? The answer is this. The first programs that come in, learned programs, are reading the emotions and character of the mother. I say, why is that important? Because her emotions determine the health of the world for that fetus. If it's a wonderful supporting world, then she sends all the nourishment and good news, life is the most beautiful thing, develop wonderfully because you're going to enjoy this. Or if she's threatened about her survival, the job, the future, the money, the support, then all of a sudden there's a stress hormone going in. I go, well, the stress hormones affect the human, but they also affect the fetus in the exact same way. And the relevance is it changes the pattern of behavior. And I say these are programs. The fetus has to learn the programs, and it starts then. And then when you're born, your brain for 7 years is not functioning at the vibration of consciousness. You go, vibration. I go, yes. Put wires on a person's head. It's called electroencephalograph. You're reading the brain vibrations of consciousness. I go, when you put those wires on a child under 7, it's not vibrating at the level of consciousness. It's just below consciousness. It's vibrating at something called theta. And I say, well, what is theta? It's characterized as imagination. Point, let's have a tea party. We pour nothing into the cup. We drink the nothing and talk about how wonderful the tea was, okay? Theta. The broom is not a broom. The broom is a horse. Theta. Now comes the most important insight for us as adults. Theta is hypnosis. I go, what do you mean? I say, how did you get programs to put in the computer? And the answer is you have to observe your mother, your father, your siblings, and your community. And I say, but in Theta, you're not only observing them, you're downloading their behavior. Why? Well, you're going to be part of a family. You're going to be part of a community. You got to know the rules. And an infant cannot read a book and it cannot go to school. And I say, well, then how it learns the rules? I say, Theta. It just watches and downloads, watches the behavior. And I go, so why is that relevant? And I go, because the programs that you are putting into your computer, the behavioral programs to be a member of a family and to be a member of a community, didn't come from you. It came from other people. And if their programs are not fully supportive, well, that doesn't make any difference because you're going to operate from the program. And so the point about it is this: your wishes and desires may never have been part of the program you downloaded from other people. And I go, so, okay, wait, that's in the subconscious program. That's what 7 years is all about. And then I go, but after 7, I become conscious. I can type on the keyboard and put my data into the computer and put my wishes and things I want. And I go, that's great. Problem. That's the conscious mind that is then engaging the program in the subconscious. But the conscious mind not only is conscious of where we are and what's going on, but the conscious mind can think. So I ask all of you right now, I mean, just say, hey, if it's not in front of you, what are you doing on Friday? And the reason why I just bring that up is simply, if it's not in front of you, but I know you can give me the answer, but it's not in front of you, where did you get the answer from? You went thinking. I said, oh, so for a moment, you had to go into your head, stop paying attention to what's going on out here, and you went in your head to think. I go, yes, the moment you're thinking, the conscious brain connected to your personal identity, your spirituality, the creative brain that has imagination and can manifest life, the conscious brain that is you can either look out the eyes and be part of the world, or it can think. And when it thinks, it looks inwards. Your thought was not out here, it was in. So I say, so what? And I go, well, then when you're thinking, you're not paying attention. I go, yeah. Well, what if you're driving the car and you have a thought? I go, the subconscious is called autopilot. When you are thinking, your behavior is now controlled by your subconscious program. I go, yeah, but I didn't put that program in there. I got that from my father or my mother. And so when I am thinking, I'm playing their program. And I go, yeah. And I say, and most of the programs we've been downloaded with, 70% are programs that are disempowering, self-sabotaging, and limiting beliefs. These are 70% of the downloads. So I say, okay, how much time am I spending thinking? Oh my God, get ready for this. Science has recognized the answer to that question is 95% of the day. 95% of the day you are thinking about what you're doing, why you're doing it, where you're going, what's happening next week, what happened last week. It's going in and in and in and in. I go, then that means only 5% of the day are you creating the life you want. And quantum physics says that life is coming from our experiences. We're creating it. I go, yeah, you're creating 5% to what you want, and 95% you're playing the program. And this story, which I've told for 30 years, still pending, waiting for a better one, so I'm using it again. is you have a friend, you know your friend's behavior very well, and you happen to know your friend's parent. And one day you see your friend has the exact same behavior as their parents, so you go like, hey, Bill, you're just like your dad. Back away from Bill. The first thing Bill is going to tell you right off is, how can you compare me to my dad? I'm nothing like my dad, blah, 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 blah. And everyone has familiarity with it. And I said, you want the most profound story of the morning right here? I'll tell you what the profound story is. And that is, we are all Bill. I go, what does that mean? Bill plays his father's programs when he's thinking, but he himself, while thinking, does not observe those programs. And so when someone says you're just like your dad, in his mind, no, I'm not. But the fact was, when he was thinking, he was his dad. He played exactly the programs that his dad downloaded into him, or his mom, or his brother or sister or community. And I go, why is that relevant? 95% of the day, your life is not coming from your wishes and desires. It's coming from your program. And I go, yeah, but the program is passed from generation to generation. I go, exactly. And I go, why is it relevant? Because even the parents don't know they're passing the program, because when they're playing their program, they were playing it because they were thinking. And I say, oh my God. I go, give you a simple fundamental how explosive this is. If you want to understand how explosive it is, this. There is no gene that causes cancer. Cancer is a consequence of a lifestyle. A gene is correlated with cancer, but doesn't cause cancer. So Angelina Jolie, believing that she's going to be susceptible to the breast cancer that killed her mother and her grandmother, undergoes a double mastectomy with the vision of, well, if I don't have breasts, then I'm not going to get breast cancer. And I go, wow, that's a radical treatment. Anyway, that doesn't stop it, because it will just go to ovarian cancer. That's the next one anyway. But here was the point. 50% of the women that carry the gene never get the cancer. I said, well, that's an important point. Why? Possession of the gene does not cause cancer. It's the possession of the gene in a lifestyle that is not in harmony that will elicit a cancer. And if you change that lifestyle, you can make a cancer go into remission. And basically, we have what? Been programmed with a belief, programmed, that genes control your life. It's a false program. Genes don't have an ability to control. Genes are blueprints. Genes are blueprints to make the proteins, which are the building blocks of this physical reality. And I go, why is it relevant? I say, it's a blueprint. And I say, well, yeah, but go into an architect's office and she's working on a blueprint. Lean over her shoulder and I go, hey, is your blueprint on or off? And she would look at you like, what are you talking about? It's a blueprint. There's no on and off. A gene is a blueprint. It is turned on by environmental signals. It is turned on by our perceptions of environment. It's turned on by our beliefs of environment. And all of a sudden I say, well, why is that relevant? I said, well, you're in total control of your genetics. And then all of a sudden, well, then where the hell did cancer and cardiovascular disease and where all these things come from? I go, stress. Because when you're in stress, you debilitate the system. And the consequence of stress is what causes a complete change in your physiology, from growth to protection. And we live in a world seemingly requiring so much protection that on a day-by-day basis, we are compromising our immune system and our growth mechanism and our intelligence. Because when you're in stress, you don't think, you react. And reaction is based on whatever program you got, because it's not thinking. And all of a sudden, when you start getting stressed, guess what? Your programs start taking over even more and more. And if they're negative, hey, Bill doesn't see the program. You don't see the program. You see the outcome. So I say, so where are we? Summarize everything I just said in a couple of minutes. Well, human civilization, the behavior we have been programmed with as a collective population has created this world. It's not the world that if I said, is this the world you want to create? And you're going to go, no. I go, well, then how come we're creating? I said, because you're not creating from your conscious mind. You're creating from your program. And this world is a program. As a matter of fact, the Jesuits have told people, I love this, 400 years, the Jesuits told people, give me a child until it is 7 and I will show you the man. I say, what did they know? Exactly what I just told you. First 7 years, put the program in. Next lifetime, 95% program. So whatever program I put in the first 7 years, the character of your life is going to be that program. And then I say, but if we collectively teach this to everyone, then everyone buys that program, and then they collectively, unconsciously create the crap that we're in. And all of a sudden I say, oh my God, the movie The Matrix is not science fiction. It's a documentary. We all been programmed. And I go, yeah, but there was a cool part. Just to wake you up to the cool part. In the movie, you could take a red pill and you could get out of that program. And almost all of you have taken that pill for a period of time and you got out of this program. And I said, what was the consequence? I said, most of you at one time had fallen in love with somebody and your life was blah, 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 blah every day. Why? Because 95% was coming from the program, which gave you blah, blah, blah. And then the day you fall in love, guess what? You stop thinking. I said, what do you mean? Well, if you've been looking for this person and they just show up in your life, what the hell do you want to think for? You want to be here now. Oh, be mindful. Oh, what does that mean? Stop thinking. What does that mean? No more defaulting to the program. You are now in 100% or 90% actually creative mode. And I say, so what is the result of two people coming together in love like that? It's called a honeymoon. I say, what the heck is the honeymoon? Heaven on earth. I go, so why is that relevant? It was always there. But you only experience it when you stop playing the program long enough to create. Now, it doesn't have to be in love with a person. It could be in love with a pet. It could be in love with gardening. It could be in love with cooking a dinner. It could be in love with painting a picture. Basically, what does it mean? You're engaged in something that's so exciting to you at this time that you keep your conscious mind present and not think during this time period. The result of not thinking is not playing the program. That's red pill. I say, what is the consequence of taking a red pill? Hell can turn into heaven in one day. In one day. So the bottom line is, we've created, human civilization is created in what was a garden, hell. But we're creators. And yet we look around and go, what the hell is this? It's hell. I go, why? Because you're not using your creative mind on a day-by-day basis. You're just playing the program. It's invisible to you as it is to Bill. And I go, so the net consequence, ultimately I'll come to a conclusion. And the net consequence is you go through life, you start in the morning thinking, today's the day I'm going to create the best life, the best romance, the best job. I'm going to do the best. I'm going to enjoy everything today. You go out, you come home at 5 o'clock going, didn't happen today, folks. Didn't happen. And then I say, well, why not? And then you say, I don't know. I woke up, I was going to do all this, and the world is not supporting me. I'm not being supported. I have these wishes and desires, but obviously I'm not being supported to express them. And I go, no, you stopped playing your wishes and desires and started operating from that moment. 95% the rest of the day was whatever you were doing, job, working, whatever thing you were involved with, you were thinking 95%. The behavior that came out was not the heaven you were looking for, but the world as we experience it. So now the wake-up call is coming. And the wake-up call is coming. The world that you're experiencing, because of the way you are collectively creating, collectively, I use that big word, all of us, we are collectively sharing a creation by program, that it's a wake-up call that says you cannot do this anymore. We need to change the program. It's time to wake up. And it's time to wake up. You're a creator. That's exactly what quantum physics said day one, 1927. Mind is the matrix of all matter. And the significance about that is, well, then there's a point where you have to look at the world and say, this is not what I want. I'm going to change. And then you can start to take control. But you can't take control if you didn't know you didn't have control. Everyone out there is presuming they're victims of the world out of control. And it's like they didn't even know they were involved. And so the wake-up call number one is, A, we're creating this. Quantum physics. The science I got involved with in my history at the university and what changed my life and led to biology of belief was recognizing the story from the cells, that it was their environment that was controlling their biology. And by changing their environment, I changed their fate. And I go, well, wait, the cells in my body, how's their fate? And I say, what's the environment I'm sending them? Because the cells respond to my consciousness. I go, how? The blood is the environment, it's the nutrition and the source of information. And when a brain has a vision, it translates that vision into chemistry that complements that vision. A scary vision doesn't send out love hormones. A scary vision sends out stress hormones. Love sends out love hormones. And I go, why is it relevant? It's the information in that blood, whether it's going to the fetus or going to your 50 trillion cells, that is determining the character and fate of your life at this moment. We've been led to believe that genes control all this. It turns out genes are responsible for less than 1% of disease. 90+% of diseases, lifestyle and consciousness. I say, why is that relevant? That's in our control. Yes, we can change that. We are the powerful people who are sending thoughts to 50 trillion cells. What are you sending them? COVID. Oh, well, that automatically released stress hormones, which by definition shut off the immune system. That's the function of stress hormones, to get your energy up for running away from that tiger you were afraid of, not to use the energy to kill the bacteria. Immune system uses a lot of energy. If you've been sick, you realize you didn't even have energy to get out of bed. I go, yeah, so when you're running from a tiger, immune system is not necessary. So stress hormones shut it off. And they shut off the growth mechanism that maintains health. Why? If you're running from that tiger, I want all the energy that I need to get away from the tiger. I'll grow later if I'm still alive. Okay. And then lastly, just to wrap it up, I keep saying lastly for the last hour, but lastly, to wrap it up, when we're in stress, this is very critical. We do not use conscious brain processing. We use reactionary behavior, reflexes, hindbrain. Why? It's fast. And in a stress mode, you don't want to have slow thinking. It will kill you. So nature put us, when we're in a stress mode, to shunt the blood from the forebrain to the hindbrain so we can be in reaction, which is super fast compared to thinking. So I say, so what's happening? The immune system of the public is being shut down. The health and vitality and nutrition that should keep us healthy is not supporting us. And our consciousness is in fear and engaging in protection behaviors, which are to wall you off from the world, which is you can't survive. You have to be open to take things in. Putting yourself in a spore closes you down, and your life you can only stay so long in protection. The bottom line was, in the old days, we had bomb shelters. We thought the Russians were going to bomb the USA, and we had bomb shelters under the ground. And so I say, look, summer day or beautiful day, whatever, the town is working. All the businesses are open. The kids are in the school. Everybody's doing their job and everything is working. Air raid siren goes off. Test, go into the air raid shelter. I say, okay, that's protection inside. What about the jobs? Oh no. The job of maintenance of that community, the education, maintenance, schools, jobs. You're in the bomb shelter. There's no more work. I say, well, but then an all clear happens, and 15 minutes later, you're out of the bomb shelter and everybody goes back to work. I go, that's like being chased by the saber-toothed tiger. You're essentially in that fear. You run 15 minutes, you get away from that tiger, and you're back, no more stress again, and then you're back into growth, okay? But if you stay in the bomb shelter, how long can you stay there? And then all of a sudden you realize, I only got so much water, I only got so much food. There's a point where it will kill me if I stay in the bomb shelter. I go, that is where the health of this world is falling apart. This is why 40% of Americans have 2 to 3 comorbidities, all due to the stresses of, can I survive? Will I have health insurance? Will I get food? Will I be able to pay the rent? Blah, 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 blah. And I say, so it's a wake-up call. Wake-up call is, well, you have a choice. There's heaven right here at the same place. But you stop engaging in this particular caterpillar demise and start engaging in a community of upward growth toward the butterfly, because that's the lightest touch. And the garden that we came from, can go back to be a garden because we are decimating that garden. And the biggest issue is this: a garden is the height of cooperation. That's what a garden is. And I go, and the world, a complete lack of cooperation with each other and with nature. And the garden has fallen apart. Garden is not a battleground. And the idea is, you want a garden, then we got to come back together in a different way and assemble into a community with different ideals. And that's where cell biology comes in. You want to know how to do it? 50 trillion cells have been living in harmony for 1 million years, called the human body. And they have an economy and an education. They got a protection department and a growth department. They got all the things that we have because we're cells in the first place. That's a lot of talking. That was more than 15 minutes.
Wow. Yeah, Dr. Bruce Lipton, thank you so much. That was truly, truly incredible. My mind is blown. I think everyone's mind is blown. And I just want to say, you know, while you were speaking, I couldn't help but think that you were describing the whole reason why we created this group, you know, the Quantum Healing Collective. We go into the quantum, try to tap into that matrix, raise our vibration, become the best version of ourselves. And I would love to talk to you sometime offline about how we can maximize what we're doing here so that we can, you know, optimize positive transformation. But my question for you, as we now move into the question and answer portion of this meeting, what is your interpretation on how heart coherence manipulates the quantum matrix and everything that we're doing here?
Okay. We have a couple of friends, Deva, Premal, and Mitten. Maybe some of you know their music. And we sit around with sometimes, and they pick up a guitar and they start playing, and it's really beautiful, just a small community. And I go, but the issue is this. It can't be a big community, because if they're just sitting around, there's no amplification or anything. It's all, how many people can sit around Deva and Mitten and listen? I say small number of people. I go, yeah, but if they go into an amphitheater and plug into a sound system with an amplifier, they could have 20,000 people. The conscious mind is the local idea mind. It's like the, unamplified music playing. I can hear this right here, right? The heart is an electric generator that you can put a probe, I don't know how many yards away, 30 feet away, whatever, and you can electrically get the pulse of a person's heart from that distance. Why? Because we're amplifying the electric contraction of the heart. Powerful electric shock is being amplified. I go, great. If you take the consciousness and put it in harmony with the heart, then the heart electrical waves become carriers for the message that the brain had. If it's not in contact with the heart, the brain message will go out so far, and you'll influence yourself just locally, right here. But if you amplify it with your heart, that message is broadcast out to the environment out here. So heart, brain, harmony together, working together, is an amplification of consciousness. And that's why if you put your love in through your heart and your vision through your heart, you're not just putting it locally, you're broadcasting it in the field. And the more people that are broadcasting, each of us is a tuning fork. And the more tuning forks that are on the same frequency, when they all get hit, make a amplitude of sound that changes the environment. And so coming together in a community as you are doing is bringing together a bunch of tuning forks and then getting coherence in that tuning fork system to create a vision of heaven on earth. And if everybody in the community is broadcasting that, then even people who are not in the community that just walk into that field a little bit, it's called like a crowd response. Most of crowd response, unfortunately, are due to riots where the person gets pulled in and all of a sudden they're fighting and it's like, how the hell did I get here? But what if we made a crowd response of heaven on earth and pulled people in? Then even those around you who are not even thinking the way you're thinking, the volume from the tuning forks will alert them to this other vision that's going on. So evolution is the evolution of community. And you can start, you don't make instantly all community at once. You start with smaller communities that merge with other communities. And when the communities all start coming together, the amplitude and volume of that consciousness is what, it's the consciousness that shapes reality, quantum physics. The more that share this global peace consciousness, the more it manifests in the reality. So the point of bringing it together is exactly that. It's not just coming from your mind, it's got to come from your heart. And it's interesting, a friend of mine did some EEG studies on what's called Cook's hookup. It's a process where you cross your arms and legs, and because it brings harmony to right and left hemispheres. And it calms people down. So yeah, he could show on the EEG, look, their higher activity now, it's calming and becoming more coherent. And then he added this part, which was the blowaway he'd never anticipated. He said, well, those people were in that calm, collected state. He said, come from your heart, get a vision of love and come from your heart. And all of a sudden, out of that electrical activity, a spike jumped up. And it wasn't in the conventional alpha and beta consciousness, it was gamma. Gamma's peak performance. And all of a sudden it said, just sitting there in calm consciousness and coming from their heart, gamma burst came out, which is the highest energy form. And it was on signal. It was basically, okay, now come from your heart. Boom, within 30 or so seconds, boom, gamma waves shot out. So basically, you know, it says that that this heart and body mind connection, when working together, is an amplifier. And we can all, and it doesn't require everyone to get there. That's the cool part. Only a percentage of people have to get there. Then the volume is so loud that even people who are not ready to be in that energy field, they're in it because the volume is so loud. So that's the beautiful part, because if we had to wait for everybody to come on board, it's like, that's not going to really happen. But if we get a percentage on board, it will activate it.
Thank you.
That's a long answer.
Oh no, it was beyond my wildest dreams, to be honest with you. I can't thank you enough for that. That was special to me. So thank you. We're now gonna allow some other people to ask some questions. I see a lot of hands up. So Angela, go ahead.
Thank you very much. Dr. Bruce Lipton, thank you so much for joining us here. I'm incredibly grateful. Thank you so much. And I know other people have said it, and I hope everyone keeps saying it, because you deserve all of our gratitude, and we are so happy to have you here.
No, I'm singing to the choir. Boys, this is
You are.
a job for me.
We will be your choir, yes. So I got a question. This might be a little obscure. I'm just finishing Technology, Consciousness, and Evolution from Humanity's Team. I don't know if you did that one with Greg Braden and Lynn Taggart, and you talk about, which you mentioned briefly here, about, you know, the human body being a colony of amoebas, and how, you know, and how basically we are a colony that got together and transformed to a higher life form, which is us.
Yes.
I don't know if you're familiar. Are you familiar at all with the raw channelings from the 80s?
Not offhand right
So
now, I
it's
can't.
it's a channeling. Rise is an
Egyptian?
entire planet of collect. So
Oh,
it's not a being. It's an entire planet of you know, that formed a collective consciousness. You know, and now is, you know, out there in the ether. You know, doing things, helping out, whatever. Do you I wonder what you think about the possibility for humanity as that sort of thing, as we are coming together, as we are merging this consciousness, to actually merging ourselves together to actually become a higher consciousness, as in like an entire species, you know, to share, to maybe leave some of those boundaries of speech, and, you know, just really just kind of merging into like a higher life form,
yeah.
eventually. Like, what do you think?
50-50.
On the fence.
Why? We have been here before.
Mm.
And when you understand that your identity is not this physical body, your identity is a quantum energy field that is broadcast to your body, then you recognize the body come and go, but the broadcasts are always here. So you're an identity. No two people receive the same identity through, no two people have the same set of what are called self receptors on their cells. That's why you can't mix cells from one person to another, because if you put foreign cells into your body, your immune system looks at the reception on those cells and says, that's not us, that's somebody else, and eliminates them, okay? So this whole idea is that once we start to recognize that we are this ongoing energy consciousness, it changes who and what we think we are. And now can we take those changes and manifest them across a planet? Well, there have been other civilizations, because we've been here before in different bodies and different lifetimes. And so we can say, oh yeah, there was Atlantis. Yeah, that was around. What's the other one?
Lemuria.
Lemuria, yeah. And that was here. And they didn't make it. And the idea is, are we going to make it? And I say, it would be really fun to do it this time because we can transcend then, instead of repeating the whole thing and starting all over again. And the idea is that with the technology that we have this time, I think we're much, much closer to it, because we can get a collective energy like we're doing on this field right here, right now. And so I think there's a better opportunity for success on this version of it. But I'm going to be realistic and go, yeah, we thought that in the past too, I'm sure, and never made it. So are we going to make it? It's really close. As I said, we're facing an extinction process. It's not hundreds of years from now. We're talking within decades. This is going to unfold, and things are changing so dramatically. Will we be able to keep up with it? If we work as a collective, yes. If we don't come together, then the odds are not as good. But that doesn't mean you can't have a good life as the rest of it is falling apart too. Why? You don't have to participate in that world. It's a choice. You want to turn on the news? That was a choice. Can you do anything about it if you turn on the news? Nope. What can I do? I can respond. Oh, is it a good response? I go, Jesus, no, who wants to watch that stuff, you know? And yet that was choice. And I know this from personal experience, because this was not the character of my life for 40 plus years. It was until I took the consciousness that the cells offered me and then made it a program in my subconscious, was I able to experience what I now refer to every day as heaven on earth to me. It's heaven. Why? Well, somehow or other, I'm in a buffer zone most of the time, where I'm not out there at the edge where all that angst is found. But that was what? Choice. It was a choice. And most of us don't believe we have choices, because we must do this and we must do that. And I go, is that must real, or is that a program? Is that basically?
Thank you very much.
You're welcome very much.
Thank you, Angela. The next person I saw with that hand up was Renee. So go ahead, Renee.
Dr. Bruce, thank you so much for, like, you don't understand. Like, I even told Kyle, like, I was having like an anxiety attack with all the overwhelmingness of you coming on, because a lot of the people from Quantum Healing Collective, they've become my family, my tribe. And I gotta say, I just have to throw it out there that a lot of people are connected with you, you know, through your teachings and your mentorship. However, I have to say, almost 10 years ago, you saved my life. And I don't want to get emotional, but I had a heart attack when I was 26 years old, and I was I was almost 8 months pregnant with my daughter, and I had a very sudden heart attack. You know, and I knew I was under a lot of stress. My dad was battling cancer. My family was causing a lot of my environmental stresses. You know, as you know, your environment has a big impact on that. And that's what led up to my heart attack. Well, after that, when I was in the hospital for 32 days after my heart attack, because I required blood transfusions, and my daughter was in the intensive care unit for 4 months. However, during my time at Women and Infants over here in Rhode Island, I was looking up environmental causes of heart attacks. And Dr. Michael Skinner initially had come up, and he talked about the video I had watched was epigenetics and transgenerational inheritance. And then as soon as I watched that video, I watched your videos. You've started popping up, your epigenetics background, and how, and I literally just had that awakening, like that aha moment. And I really started digging deeper into my environment, into how I reacted, and how to get away from those stresses. I'm healed. Like, I don't have the heart condition anymore. And I was able to kind of counteract a lot of those, the negative programs, and replace them with positive programs such as meditations and sound healing, journaling, just really kind of erasing the negative programs that I had. So I just wanted to, and I don't want to cry because I'm an emotional person. I'm an empath, so that's where that comes in. But I just wanted to truly thank you from the bottom of my very healed heart, how for really sharing your light and knowledge with others.
Renee, I want to thank you. And as I emphasize, you were the one that made the effort to make the change. So you're the responsible element of change, which is really important, because we have to own that we are doing this. And now that you've done this, what's really beautiful is that you are by definition a teacher, because there are a lot of people that are in the place you were, and you can say, I was there, and look where I am now. And then all of a sudden you become a real testament, not a textbook story, but a real testament to take back control of your life. And that, so to me, that's very important. If you recognize this is not a secret with your life, this has to be told to people who are in the same place you were in before, and that's going to make a positive contribution to the planet we're in.
Thank you so much, Renee. I see Claudia's hand up.
Hello, Dr. Bruce Lipton. Thank you so much for being here. It's so exciting to get to chat with you.
Thank you.
I have an interesting question. I recently listened to a speaker named Drew Coleman. He created a company called Organifi, and he leads a very interesting life around spiritual entrepreneurship and things like that. Something that he mentioned, which is that what I'm trying to decipher, is that a lot of people speak about the 3D and the 5D, but something that I kept hearing in this podcast was the 4D. And so I just feel like there's a disconnect, and I'm trying to figure out where the 4D, how do we work the 4D? I feel like we're skipping over something, right?
Oh, I need to ask you the question. Are you saying D or G?
D, like the the third dimension, fifth dimension.
Well, the fourth dimension is time.
Okay.
In other words, Three dimension, here's an object, but now in the fourth dimension, this object move. So that's another dimension you have to look at, okay? Every time you go up a dimension, it's a bigger, broader picture than the smallest, narrower one, okay? And so I don't know how many dimensions there are, but there's some numbers that to me is still mind-boggling. I can't really get into it. It's like, okay, I got 3, I got 4, from 5 until 20, I have trouble with, but it's a physics aspect that I'm just not in depth knowledge of to talk about it. But there are dimensions, and they really are collective when you look at them from the beginning point, which is a 0 dimension, to a line 1, to a cube, a square 2, to a cube 3, to a moving cube 4, and I can't, I don't know the litany of the 5 through 20.
Sure, no, that makes sense. Thank you.
But the fun part is we live in the 3 and the 4. So if you're happy in the 3 and the 4, don't worry about the other dimensions. They're going to be okay.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Claudia. I see Caitlin's hand up. Go ahead, Caitlin.
Hi, Dr. Bruce. Can you hear me?
Yes, I got you. Thank you so much.
Oh, good. Yeah, thank you. I just want to thank you first and foremost. I mean, I was lucky to get, I think it was the biology of belief in my hands about 17 years ago when I was like 15. So it's kind of guided me on my path. And I'm a therapeutic classroom teacher and like coordinator. So I work in that age you're talking about of elementary age from, kindergarten to 7 with a lot of kids who are like, from abusive homes, failure to thrive, foster parents. And I'm wondering, I teach the staff and we do a lot of work with like attunement, the vagus nerve, setting up the environment to help the kids repattern into the present moment in their brains. I've worked with parents and some of them I've actually gave your book, and we've done like really amazing work over the past 10 years on these kids who have gotten out of institutions and like the pipeline to prison. But I'm wondering if you have any information or guidance on working with kids, like if you've seen any programs for the kids whose parents, when you can't get to that parent outreach level, that I could use with like children.
Yeah, this one of the most requested or suggested things is to offer for children this insight and opportunity. There are some books that are really good, like on my website, there's a set of books called Max Rhymes, and it's like a cartoony story about programming for kids and to make better programming. Today I just talked with another person about another set of books that also are based on this for kids. So there are more and more books coming out. Animations on the net, there's some really good ones for kids. Kids can dig the animations more than they can sit and watch a real person. So animations are really good. We have one, a couple of them. It's called After School, AFTER, but school is SKOOL. They have a whole series of animations on different topics, which I think are really profoundly helpful for younger people to watch this. So education is the most important job on this planet today because we have been miseducated, and the miseducation is creating this. And the only way out is to change consciousness. So interesting part, the most important jobs in the world that are getting the least support from my perception is being a mother and being a teacher, because these are the foundational roots of civilization. They're passed on to the generation that's coming. And the whole problem in our world is we've all been screwed up from the beginning. Now we have to fix ourselves as adults. This is a much more difficult job. It's easier for a 3-year-old to get it right than a 60 or 70-year-old person to get it right. So to me, this is really critical. And there are indeed some now materials coming forth. So the ones I'm familiar with, Max Ryan's books, but we're looking at another set of books as well that we hopefully will put out in our newsletter and on our website. But After School is one of the versions of animations. And I found just a couple because a woman whose child got into a phobia because of the COVID fear. I found a couple of really wonderful immunology videos to talk about empowerment using cartoon characters and things like that. So I think the resources are definitely out there, and the more animation and the more colorful, that's the thing that gets kids, the easier it is to transmit a message. If I sat in front of this camera and started to talk, in about a minute they would go and fall out. So, it's very interesting because I remember very specifically Sesame Street, which is, I think, still a fabulous resource. What they did is they put kids in front of the television when they were making the series. And what they did is they monitored the kids as the show was playing. And the moment where the kids all of a sudden start drifting off and looking somewhere else, they look at that and they said, okay, fix that part right there. And so they really cultivated an experience for children to keep them there. And the storyline for Sesame Street, that was great at that time. I haven't looked at it for years because my kids grew up with that. But that's what we need to do. And so resources are there. And even going back to that is a fabulous resource. There was another show, which I have to admit that occasionally I still, if I get an opportunity, I take a glance at it. It was called Dinosaurs, and it was by Jim Henson and the Muppets. And what was so wonderful about that story is that they had great messages in every story, but there were also, a parent could sit there and laugh with the kid, because it was at two levels, and it was a wonderful thing. But there were always very important stories about education and how to deal with people, and the kind of thing you've been talking about. Great resources are out there on the web.
Well, thank you very much, and we'll be pushing that forward to our little kids that don't have a lot of help out here in New England. So thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Dr. Bruce, it's Silver Stork here. Firstly, I just want to thank you for an incredible conversation. I could quite happily have these conversations all day and every day. Just love your energy.
I appreciate you being there, because that's sharing our awareness is what the game is. Community.
Exactly, community. And that brings me on to this realization that I've had, and a couple of quick questions connected to that realization, which I would love your input on. And I'm very much of the mind, what can I do and what can we do? What projects can we create to
Silver, we lost you there for a second. If you could just repeat that.
And what projects we could create, and then it got.
Yeah, what projects we can create to create a better world, whether it's banning plastic, whether it's renewable energy, whether it's, creating a community project so nobody feels alone or isolated, and then, or creating a new system that works for everyone. And then I'm like, that's too much. It's too much. It's just not doable. There's got to be a simpler way. And then I heard of the Maharishi who started the transcendental meditation movement, and believed that when 1% of the global population comes into coherence and love, then it will shift the whole of humanity's consciousness. So
that indeed, yes. And there's demonstrations to the effect that that's possible already.
Yeah, so my first question on that note is, what percentage do you think would shift the global consciousness to where we need it to be?
First of all, I can only do with Maharishi is the only data that I've seen on anybody trying to attempt to do this with a meditation and a consciousness. And so that data is the only one that I know. Percentage wise, I can't answer it, but I can tell you, as you already are aware in your community right now, is that you start building this where you live and you start building that community around you, what you have right here. It's that this is how it occurs. And so you get the benefit of what? If you're in the middle of that community, guess what? Just you don't see the edges where the trauma are anymore. But that community expands and then it joins with other communities. And that is the way of doing it. The idea that there's one day all of a sudden, boom, everybody's in a community is not a likely event. Maybe the day the flying saucers land and they come out and the whole world's going like that, that might be a moment, something like that. But in the meantime, we are community building. You're a community builder. And this is, if you know this is the mission, then you're already walking on much higher ground. And you're engaging in that behavior enhances your vitality, which is why nature gives you this extra boost, because it says, you're doing something right. You get a benefit for doing something right. And that's the healthy, happy feeling that allows you to go to sleep at night without taking any pills and things like that. Then whether the whole world changes or not, that's not really relevant. Is whether your world changes. That's the one that you really want to work with.
Wow, thank you, Silver. I see Rhonda's hand up. Go ahead, Rhonda. And thank you, Bruce, of course.
Dr. Bruce, I love you. Thank you for being here. I've heard you on another interview podcast talking about ways to change the subconscious program.
Yes.
So you talked about self-hypnosis, creating new habits, and energy psychology. And
Yes.
that part I'm not familiar with. And I also wanted to kind of blend that in with what do you do on a daily basis to create?
Okay. Energy psychology, let me bring that in because that's necessity is the mother of invention. And the interesting fact is this: we have a necessity to change our programming as fast as we possibly can because it's our behavior that is creating a problem. And so out of that necessity comes this energy psychology. And I go, what the heck is that? Well, it's not the old-fashioned cognitive therapy talk about who did what to who and what happened in your history. That's actually not even relevant. What's relevant is your life experiences created programs. I don't need to go back and talk about how the hell the program was created. You have the program. And so the idea is this: going back in time is a waste of everybody's time and actually makes things worse because you have to replay some of these programs, okay? So basically it says, you look at your life right now, and here's the simple analysis. Look at your life right now and recognize this: the things that you like that come into your life, the things that come to you, they come to you because you already have programs to encourage them to be there. So you don't have to do anything with that. But then I say, but the things that you wish for, desire, but you have to work hard, sweat over, stress over it, put a lot of effort into it, I'm going to make it happen. I go, why are you working so hard? Mm-hmm. And that's where the beautiful answer comes from, because you have a downloaded program that doesn't support that outcome. So right away now, do I have to go over and find out who did what to give me that program? No, I have to just look at the program and say, what's it failing? Where am I failing in this program? Okay. The biggest one that is the biggest undermining factor in programming is that 80 to 90% of the people in these programs where we do belief change, where I get involved, when asked, to test for I love myself, 80 to 90% of the people will not test positive for that. And I go, why is that relevant? Well, we've been so criticized as children, and children not being conscious, but download the criticism, not good enough. Well, the parent was trying to stimulate you to do something, but if you're under 7, not good enough is just a recording. Why? Consciousness isn't there. So the criticisms that children get, like us, become programs because we weren't consciously understanding the meaning of why the criticism was given. And then I say, so what? And I said, then 95% of your life comes from those programs. And all of a sudden you realize, if you don't love yourself, how can anybody else love you? And all of a sudden you start to realize that's what I had to wake up to, was like, I was so critiqued that my own programming would push away anybody because I'm not lovable. That's what I was generating, okay? So we need to change this. Do I need to go back and find out every stinking reason why I came up with that? No, it's irrelevant. I know I have this program. So now I say, so now what? I have a program. I say, now I want to change the program. And we talked about, well, the two natural ways was self-hypnosis with earphones on going to bed. The other one is just making a practice, a new habit that you practice just like a habit, where you repeat it and repeat it and repeat it, and that's how you get a habit. And the third one is the fast one, energy psychology. And I say, what does that do? It engages what I would refer to as super learning. You go, what's super learning? I go, well, maybe you've seen somebody read a book by just opening up the book and moving their finger down the page. As fast as they move their finger down, just like that, they could read every word on that page. The subconscious is so far beyond our ability to recognize how powerful it is. But just moving your finger down a page allows you to read every word on that page, okay? So there's a character called super learning that can do this. Apparently energy psychology in some way, there's a whole bunch of modalities, but they're all connected to some way where you enhance a person's opportunity to download in a super knowledge way. I go, why is it relevant? Because then it doesn't take days, weeks, or months. You can make changes in minutes. And I said, wow. And I go, wow, because A, my life was profoundly altered by experiencing this. So it was like, for me, it was like I was a recipient of this experience, and then went around and went, oh my God, you can change your life very quickly, energy psychology. And there's a whole bunch of modalities on my website, brucelipton.com, simple, brucelipton.com. There's resources on belief change modification, which include about 20 plus of these energy psychology modalities. I highly recommend them. You can learn in other ways, but this cuts the pain out of it, and you can walk away minutes after one of these processes and be different, just like that. It's just like, and I go, that's the miracle we need at a time like this. We don't have a lot of time to spend and change. So energy psychology has come up with an understanding of engaging that super learning so you can download a program just like that. And so the hardest part of the program is, what is the new program you want to put in? That's the hardest part, because it can't be negatives in there, it can't be futures in there. It has to be what you want as if you have it right now. And it has to be understood by a 5-year-old. The subconscious is not as smart as your conscious. It's a programming machine. But if the 5-year-old can't understand what you're wishing for, then the subconscious might have a problem with it too. So you could say, oh, I want more money. That's a nice wish in a program. I make more money. I program it, okay? And then the child comes up and says, here's the penny. And it's like, well, that's more money, isn't it? I go, yeah, but I was thinking of a lot more. I go, oh, you didn't tell the 5-year-old, you just said more money is more, is 1 cent is more. And then that's why the difficulty with the energy psychology is really framing the program you want. But then here comes the positive side. So you can frame it, and if it doesn't really work the way you want, guess what? Then put another one in. You can keep programming as long as you want. And as you do that, your life will unfold according to a new program. And that is the most amazing experience in the entire world. So all you have to do is just look at your life, say, where am I struggling? And the first thing you have to recognize, the struggle is not coming from the outside. It's the story of Bill playing from the inside out. So rather than trying to fix the outside, it's easier to come inside and say, I'll fix the inside. And then I have power.
Wow. Thank you so much, Bruce, for that answer. That was profound. And thank you, Rhonda, for that incredible question. We have time for a couple more, Bruce?
Yeah, let's do a couple more.
All right, thank you. Paul, go ahead, Paul.
Hello, can you hear me?
Gotcha, Paul.
Hi, Bruce. My wife and I were recently married, and she really likes your books and content. We even have your book on hand. But the thing that I wanted to kind of ask you is this. I wanted to ask you a little bit more about the honeymoon effect.
Yes.
We are recently married, so how long does that last? Like, what is that?
I'll tell you exactly why, the mechanism behind it, so you understand it. Remember, I also said that we've been programmed, and most of those programs are negative, okay?
Yeah.
But when you fall in love, you stop playing the program. You stay more conscious. So the conscious mind is wishes and desires. Who do you want to be in this relationship? That's a wish and a desire. So in your conscious mind, you are manifesting a honeymoon. But there'll be a point where you start thinking a lot. Why? It's a job, responsibilities, chores, whatever the heck it is. And I go, but what happens when the moment you start thinking? I said that the moment where you now shut off the conscious mind and let the subconscious take over. And then all of a sudden, those programs that weren't so great that you had all along, but were never seen in the beginning of the relationship. Why? Because we didn't play the program. All of a sudden, some of those programs come up, which leads some people to go like, who are you? Where did that come from? And the relevance about that is simply was, oh my God, that was a program that came up. Okay. Now, Margaret, my partner, and I had a lot of awareness of this. She came from a training program, belief programming, to help people get, change. And I came from a science thing, and we both recognized this. And it was really helpful because mainly when one of these bad behaviors show up, it pushes a button on the recipient who gets angry, and then all of a sudden there's communication of yelling, and it's like the person who even just did the behavior is like, Bill, didn't even see what they did. So all of a sudden this is where who are you? And then I go, what are you talking about? Why? I didn't see what I did anyway. If you understand this, then when negative programs come up, instead of an argument, it's a moment of pause and reflect. Yeah. Did you really mean to say this? And then it's like, no, I didn't really mean it that way. And I go, oh, okay, now we know a program we want to change. And then you fix that. And then you go on until the next one shows up, and then you fix that one. And every time you fix one of these programs and replace it with, you see, here's the beautiful part. You got the programs from other people, and these control your life. What if you put your wishes and your desires into that program machine? And here's the beautiful part, right? Once it's in the program, you never have to even think about it anymore. Why? It's been automatic all your life anyway. It just hasn't been taking you where you want to go. But if you put in where you want to go and it goes on automatically, then once it's into the subconscious, there's no more work. And now it's fixed. And therefore, everything that comes out is something you would wish to say, or, desire to say, or to be who you want to be. But then, because Bill cannot see his own behavior, that's what the story was all about. Only somebody can watch Bill and see the behavior. So now you're in a partnership and you have a partner. If you slip up, it's really your partner has the opportunity to say, well, that wasn't, did you really mean this? Or, was it, let's discuss this. A discussion then is not an argument. A discussion gives you an opportunity to peaceably decide, let's do something positive. An argument is putting wires together that short circuit and burn up and blow out. And so it's like, no, you're in a relationship. If something that does not support that relationship shows up, you can't see it because you just automatically said it. The only other person that can see it is your partner. And all of a sudden, then you start to recognize as partners. If somebody on the outside criticizes you for what you said, you get angry with them. Oh, they criticize me. And I go, but in this particular case, it's not criticism, it's an adjustment. And if you treat it that way, then it doesn't turn into an argument, which is where honeymoons start to disappear. When all of a sudden bickering and comes in, it blows the picture. So the beautiful part about it is this: you have an observer of you. And if you're not supporting yourself with a behavior, your observer is a guide, an angel, in the sense of saying, no reason to get into a fight about this, but that behavior was this. And then you can fix it. And you guess what? After a short period of fixing, and you get almost all the glitches out, life is so smooth. It is so easy because you're not unconsciously sabotaging yourself. But you need to see it. Bill can't see it. Bill can't see, he's like his dad, unless somebody points it out. And if somebody points it out, as I said, the old way, as soon as they point it out, you get irritated, because they were criticizing you. But in a relationship, it's not criticism, it's building trust and hope and faith into the community. That's better. And that takes you for an opportunity to create a change. And when that change is in there, no more work is required. You will now automatically be that person for the rest of your life. That's the beautiful part.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Paul, and thank you, Bruce. One more question before we go to our closing prayer. All right. Leah.
Oh my gosh, this is so exciting. I feel like probably more excited than if I was talking to Tom Cruise. And I just thank you for all of your information. It's utterly changed my life. So thank you.
Well, I want to thank you because you're the one that utterly changed your life. Again, like when we talked with Renee, it's like, here's an opportunity to reveal how powerful you are. You changed your life. I gave you knowledge. Knowledge is power. You took the knowledge and made power. So I really want to emphasize it that way because it's a personal thing you did. And you should be honored.
I will agree with that. I am very powerful. So I agree. So yes. My question is, so I am a hypnotherapist and I also do EFT. So I love the hows. I love the processes. And I know you talk about Psych-K.
That's another version, another modality. It's a different version. EFT is more like a pattern interrupt, meaning I was off on the wrong trail, saw I was off on the wrong trail, said, stop, do something else, whatever. And I say, but what happened? You stopped. If you didn't stop, that play would have gone on and may have had a very bad ending to it. But that was a moment of choice because when you realize it, I stopped that behavior. Now that gives you a moment to say, okay, is there something better for me to do? Is there, what else? Is there other options or anything like that? But if you're engaged in a running thing, you don't see it until it blows up at the end and it's like, oh. And I'm going, no, if EFT is the moment that says, this isn't working right, I can stop right now. And that is the moment where you have freedom because you want to restart that again. That was a moment of choice as well. Or you can say, I'm not going back into that dialogue or whatever I was. I'm out, I'm over here. And that's your power that you have. So EFT is really important because it stops. But it takes a repetition of EFT before the learning of that, whatever you were trying to stop will actually stop. So Psych-K is a little different because it changes the program without a lot of repetition. You can just change the program. EFT is so important because you can do that anywhere, anytime. You catch up and you say, wait, this is going off the tracks. I can stop. That's the most important learning. But Psych-K is when you identify what that issue is, then you can rewrite it just like that. And so that one doesn't show back up again, I think.
Yeah, thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Bruce, for spending time with us. Before we do our closing prayer, I just want to thank Annie too from your team. She was incredible to work with, Bruce. I
appreciate that so much. I again, that's part of, hey, everything around me has changed when I changed. And I end up with the most wonderful support team. Yeah. And started with Margaret. And once I understood how to have a relationship for 40 years, I was so bad at relationships. I didn't even believe love existed except in a book. And But the learning of it was so profoundly important for me because I wrote a book on the honeymoon effect. A guy who couldn't even get a relationship to get off the ground writes a book on the honeymoon effect. Is because I learned so much from the experience of cells to recognize I'm in charge of my life. Every one of you out here right now is in charge of your life. What you give away is what you give away. And there's a moment where you can stop and say, I don't want to give that away anymore. EFT could come in right there or anything and say, I'm changing this behavior. And as you pull in and start to create what you want to create instead of what you've been programmed to create, then around you, as we talked about it, the whole world didn't change around me, but around me in my close proximity, like Annie, who works for me, Laura, my nephew Alex, who does my videos, that's a community. And we work off of each other and the harmony and wonder that comes out of that. Is that available to everybody? Yes. But then you have to shape that community. And you have to be the decision maker, say, I will not participate in this anymore. Oh. And then you are demonstrating control. And that's what we have. And I remember when I first started, there were like, we do it because this is socially the way we do things. And then at one point I thought, yeah, but what a pain in my ass to be social at this moment. And here's an opportunity to say, no, I'm not going to do this. And it's like, and a lot of people look at you like, they expect you to do something and then you say no. They're just like, huh? But then guess what? You have freed yourself. That's the first thing I remember just very quickly was I was coming across a concept of doing this. And I was in my office in the lab at the medical school, and one of my colleagues came in and said, we're having our faculty party this Saturday. What are you bringing? And I stopped for a second thinking, I hate those damn things. Everybody stands around like they pretend like they like each other and they're just standing there with a drink. And I thought, Saturday night? And I just, all of a sudden I just said, no, I can't make it. And he looked at me like, well, we all, it's like we all go to the faculty thing. Nope, whatever the reason was, I can't make it. That person walked out of my office, and I want to tell you, I had such a jolt of energy as somebody put a battery and attached to me at that moment. What? I just saved Saturday night for me. And I didn't have to do that socially responsible thing that took away from my life and did not add to my life. And that was the first one. And the guy walked out of my office. The first thing that came in my head is, what's next? What's the one?
Oh, man. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for all this, Bruce. Like, truly, on behalf of the entire Quantum Healing Collective, we genuinely love you and appreciate you. So Angela is now going to read a little prayer. What we do is we harness this energy and we send it out to everyone awakening at this time. So Angela,
wonderful.
Whenever you're ready.
Yep. Thank you again so much from all of us. Thank you so much. I truly feel that you've just given us a boost, and what we've been trying to do is enhance our broadcast. So welcome everyone who has not been here before, and of course those of you that have. We love you so much. I just put all of our links in the chat. This video, of course, will be up. Kyle will get, he does that. He'll probably post in Facebook when it goes up. You can email us directly. Help us broadcast, help us boost, because Dr. Bruce just gave us an excellent answer. I felt, which I feel a lot. What more can I do? What can I do? What can I do? Well, I feel like Dr. Bruce said, we're doing it. Like, this is it. We're doing it. So let's broadcast, let's enhance, let's keep doing it. And, please help us and come again. We have speakers every week. So with all of this gratitude and goodness, I'd like to do the dedication of merit, which is we dedicate the merit of this meeting to all those awakening at this precious time. May our efforts to better ourselves help shift the planetary consciousness from fear into love. May this energy ripple out into the world and awaken those with closed hearts, illuminate closed minds, and inspire all to live within the presence of compassion and generosity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. We'll allow everyone to unmute themselves so they can say bye.
Bruce, thank you so much, Bruce.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
Thank you, Bruce. Thank you so
Love
much.
you.
Thank you so much.
Oh.
Thank you. Love it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
New Zealand is awesome.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm so glad you're out there because what you're doing is making my world better. Thank you all for your contribution. Thank you. Have a wonderful, wonderful time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Bruce.
Thank you.
Thank you.